Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Cooking with Nancy O and her darling husband, Rex. I don't know how darling, but anyway. Uh, Today we have a great recipe to share with you. And it's kind of like everybody eats pesto, right? We're going to share a couple different kinds of pesto you can make and the little tricks to freezing it and other ingredients you can add to it so it isn't such a strong basil flavor in there. But first I want to start talking, of course, about my tower garden. So I had an event at my house yesterday where I had some girls over and they, of course, wanted to see the tower garden. So I took them out and showed them the tower garden. And as you can see by the picture, it is chock full. You can't even see the tower because we have literally tomatoes growing like this on it. And you start looking inside and all these red tomatoes in there. And they had so much fun digging through, asking me, what is this vegetable? What is that vegetable? And we had so much fun just talking about what grew in the tower garden. And we are using fresh basil off of it because they wanted to see where the basil was growing. They didn't know what bok choy was or how to cook it, so I got to explain that. They saw my mini pumpkins growing and my acorn squash and my sugar pie pumpkins, and they didn't realize that the eggplant grew. You can grow it in round form or in the oblong shape. So we had a lot of fun out there talking about it. And then we came inside and we sat and enjoyed salad from the tower and all kinds of good things. So today we took some kale off of our tower, we took some spinach off of our tower, and we took some basil to make pesto. So we pre-made our fresh basil pesto because we need the food processor to make the kale pesto. I'm getting myself all confused here. So anyway, on our basil pesto, something I learned is sometimes basil is a little strong for me. Like I ordered a sandwich in a restaurant and the pesto was so strong I had trouble eating it. So we cut our recipe, instead of using 2 cups of fresh basil leaves, we used 1 cup of fresh basil and 1 cup of spinach, and see how that'll cut down the flavor on that. And it's very easy to make the pesto. So I have the basil pesto set aside here for you. So we're going to sample this, and we're going to sample it up against the kale. And in the basil one, you have less ingredients because you're only, what it amounts to is Romano cheese or Parmesan cheese, your basil, and we cut half basil, half spinach. And then you're going to throw in some pine nuts, and you're going to throw in some olive oil. You're not going to throw in the olive oil. There's a trick to adding the olive oil. That's what I want to teach you. And then some salt and pepper and some garlic. So it's a real easy recipe to make. And you hear about people that freeze it. The trick to freezing it is you make it, but you don't add the cheese because the cheese doesn't freeze well. So you add the cheese when you thaw it out. So now I ran across a recipe that is kale pesto. Guys, kale is a superfood. This is my kale that we grew. This is a curly kale. We also do black kale. And there was a third one that I couldn't think of the name off the top of my head. But anyway, we do those 2 kales. If you want to eat it in a salad, you just put your kale in a bowl, drizzle some olive oil on it, sprinkle it with salt, and massage it before you, and then add some other greens to it. And then it'll really help with the flavor of that. Everybody that ate my salad yesterday loved it. They didn't even know kale was in it because that's what I did. And then I mixed it with the rest of my salad. So that's a great way to break that taste on the kale. So now we're going to start our pesto here using kale. We have the basil one already made. And remember, I cut that in half with spinach, which I thought was great because now you have all the good nutrition from the spinach. So when you do the kale, you want it packed on either recipe. But this is the kale, and I just literally pulled it off. It called for chopped kale. You don't want this stem in there because it's really hard. It just snaps right in half. If I were putting this in my smoothies in the morning, because I freeze my kale, I would put the stems in. Why not? There's just as much good nutrition in there. So I just took the kale and I just tore it up like this and packed it down. So we're gonna add 3 cups of this. Here you go, Rick. We're gonna put Rick to work now. We love letting Rick do the work, don't we? No, he loves it. Don't think he doesn't. Okay, we have 3 cups of kale. We're gonna add a 1/2 cup of toasted almonds. Now, all we did is bought slivered almonds and you toast them in a nonstick pan. And that just is, I lost track, but it brings out the nutty flavor. Okay, go ahead and pulse it. And you can see how you can see how he's pulsing it a little bit at a time to get it all chopped up. And then he's going to scrape the sides just a little bit. But I really think we're ready to add the rest of the ingredients, aren't we? That looks really good. Okay, so now we are adding our Parmesan cheese, and we have a 1/2 cup here. We have the zest from a lemon, and we have our 3 cloves of garlic minced. Remember now, if you don't like a lot of garlic, you can cut that back. I chose to do it all because this is the first time I'm making pesto, and I'm very excited about this because wait till you hear what you can all do with it. Okay, pulse that low. This is so easy if you guys have a food processor. It's great. Okay, now the trick to adding the oil is you have to have the food processor running and you want to drizzle it in slow so this can get all emulsified together. I don't know if you can hear me over the machine, but we're just very slowly pouring this in. You can see how it's all coming together. So he's going to scrape that down a little bit. Oh, that looks really good. So the purpose is you don't want to dump that oil in. It has to be drizzled in slowly while you're doing this. And I tell you guys, as far as a food processor goes, I never had one for a long time. And finally we broke down and bought one because buying an appliance can be expensive. And we use this like crazy. So it's been well worth the price of purchasing it. So the next thing we're going to add is our salt and pepper. Are you ready?
Yeah.
I don't think we need the lid on yet.
Okay.
Go ahead and take the lid off. Okay, I'm going to add a tablespoon of lemon juice. And then, you know, as far as the salt and pepper goes, it's like 1/4 teaspoon of salt and about 1/8 teaspoon of pepper. And you can adjust that as needed. And then we're going to mix that up real quick here. See how easy that is to make? 1, 2, 3, and it's done. So we're going to put this into our bowl here. So pesto, let's talk about what you can serve it on. You can, of course, on pasta. You can do gluten-free pasta if you want. You can do whole wheat pasta. You can do regular pasta, but it's all the big rage now. And to have like pasta and that on your pesto on your pasta.
Pesto
Sorry.
pasta.
Pesto pasta, whatever. And you can put it on chicken. What if you made a really nice grilled chicken sandwich? You could add it to that. I found out you could put it on crackers to eat. We chose crackers today because I thought it would be interesting. I wanted to see which one Rick liked better, both of them. Rice. What about a side dish of brown rice with some pesto added to it and to just like complement a meal? So couscous. Oh, that would be really good inside a couscous. Yes. Okay, Rick. Now I'm going to show you on this one, the oil's coming to the top. So you just want to stir it before you use it. If you're adding it to pasta, that would all blend in. Okay, this is the basil and spinach. I'm not adding too much for you. It's like serving the wedding cake to you. What do you think?
That looks good.
Okay, say that louder.
That's very good.
Okay, we want to make sure everybody hears it. So kale, our superfood. This has got to be one of the best things to eat, and we need to all embrace it.
That one's good too, but I like the basil.
You like
just
the
a little
basil
bit
better. So why not add a little basil to that to
You
add
could do
flavor?
that.
Okay. So on the
We
fresh,
can mix them both together.
oh, do you hear this? He's getting smart now, guys. He says to mix the two together. So let's try that. Put a little bit on there. See, we're gonna mix this up for you guys. I'm gonna put it right on top. That's a lot on there.
Good.
Okay, let's see what they look like mixed together.
I like that. That's good.
Okay, so he likes it mixed together. So maybe we should rewrite these two recipes and mix this together. And can you imagine? Oh, you know what else I just thought of? You can put the pesto on pizza, and how good would that be? So you have so much you can do with this. Now, because you're making it fresh, remember, this is not going to keep as long in your refrigerator. So I would use it up within 3 to 4 days because you're pulling it fresh off your tower or using fresh ingredients. Which one you want to try again? Rick is,
put them both together.
Rick is drooling on me again, so we have to let him eat. Anyway, so I'm very excited about this pesto. I have never made pesto before, so this is something that would be great to add to our recipe book. And you guys, if you have a different type of recipe used for pesto, let us know so we can all share it and we can do samplings of it, because what's better than going to a party and sampling all kinds of different appetizers? I just love doing that. So next week, I haven't thought about what I want to make yet because I was kind of hoping we could do something with our peppers or our tomatoes. It just depends on the ripeness of the tomatoes. Like over the weekend, we had to make a batch of tomato sauce because the tomatoes were ready. So I'm hoping that we have a batch of tomatoes next week to show you. I have a wonderful recipe for tomato sauce. I'm really hoping that we can show that to you next week, and we'll have, because if they get overripe, it gets really difficult to do that. So until next week, I hope you guys have a wonderful week. If you have any questions about the Tower Garden, let us know. Oh, and one more thing I just thought of. I have a friend who has a rabbit now, and she wants to do a Tower Garden so she can feed her rabbit. And remember, guys, you're using very few seeds to grow your lettuces and your vegetables. So what an inexpensive way to help feed a pet is, especially rabbits, is putting the produce right off of the tower. And that leads me to, I'm sorry, I'm going to talk a little longer. Another story. When I was growing up, we had a pet turtle, and my mom kept him in the basement, and he would stand. My mom kept the fresh produce in the refrigerator downstairs, and the turtle knew we would come down and open that to get out the lettuce. So he would sit by the refrigerator with his head up, looking at it, wanting his lettuce. So we always knew when the turtle was hungry. So what a great way to help offset the cost of feeding animals also is the produce off of the Tower Garden. So that's enough knowledge for today and enough sharing a story. So until next week, we will see you. Hopefully we'll be doing our tomato sauce next week because it's wonderful and delicious. I can't wait to share it with you. So see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
You loved it. Together.
Yeah, this one's really, really good. It's not over.
Okay. I want to try this one.
You'll like that one.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm.
Try this.
Mm-hmm.
Put the pine nuts versus the almonds too.
Oh, that's right. Mmm.
That's just two different flavors.
Mm-hmm.
Two crackers.
I have too much.